Okay, so we have our error case handled already. So now we need to implement the success case. Okay, so let's see how this will work. Well, first of all, I think we should implement the model. It's about time we implement our model because the model will allow us to save the name, the email, and the password to our data store. So let's go ahead and right click on model, new, Python file, and call this users. Okay. Now, if you remember, to store or to create a model in the data store, we need to import the NDB library from Google App Engine ext. So let's say from google.appengine.ext import NDB. Okay. Now we define the class. Let's say class users, and in parentheses we type in ndb.uppercase-m for model. Okay. So model written with the uppercase. Do not write it with the lowercase because there is a model with the lowercase, but this will throw an error when you try and run your application. Okay. Okay, great. So what information are we actually storing for our users? So let's say we want their name is equal to ndb.string property, and it's going to be required. So required equals true. Then we need their email is equal also to ndb.string property, and required is going to be equal to true. I'm going to duplicate this because password is going to be the exact same thing. And since we want to learn how to send automatic emails, I think it's a good opportunity to create a functionality where the user has to confirm their account. And the confirming process is going to be the usual process that we experience when we sign up to a website, where we sign up with our email and they send us an email to confirm by clicking on the link they provide us, okay? So we're going to implement that. So like that, you guys see how you send automatic emails in App Engine. Okay, but for this, we're going to need to create a confirmation code. So let's say confirmation_code is equal to also ndb.string property, and it's also going to be required equals to true. And finally, we need to check if the account is confirmed. So let's say confirmed email is equal to ndb.boolean property, because it's going to be a boolean and the default is always going to be false. So in a moment of creation of the account, it's not going to be confirmed. Okay, so let's see. Now we need to create a property where we can actually add a user to the database, to our data store. Now, in the previous project, we simply called let's say the users and said name is equal to whatever, Michael, and the email was equal to blah, 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 blah. And then we called the put method. Here, we're not going to do this because we're going to try and structure our code as cleanly as possible. And so we're going to create a function inside of this class which basically does all the work for us. So what we're going to be doing from our register is simply call this function and pass in the values. So we're going to pass in the name, the email, and the password to the function, and the function is going to take care of actually putting it into the data store and doing all the checks it needs to do. Okay, so like that, it will be much cleaner, and we will have in a separate, we will have the logic which corresponds to our users model inside of the users class. So this will be a very nice and clean structure. Okay, so whenever we're creating a method inside of a class, we first need to wrap it around a class method. And in Python, you do this by typing the @ sign and say class method. Okay, and now we can go ahead and define the function. So def add new user. So that's add_new_user. And here we need to pass in the values. So we're going to pass in a name, an email, and a password. Okay. Okay, good. Now, whenever we're adding a user to our database, we first need to check if this user already exists. Okay. So before adding a new user, let's create another class method and say def and call it check if exists. Okay, so we're going to check if a user exists, and we're going to pass in a email only, because we're going to check if a user exists given a email. So the only thing we need to do is query our data store to see if this email exists. So we can directly say CLS because it's the class method. So this is basically the same thing as if we write self. So self refers to this class itself, and CLS is the class method. So it's basically the same thing. We're referring to this class. Okay. So query, because we're querying on the user's class, and we're going to say cls.email because it's the variable of this class is the email we're querying over, is double equal to email. So we are checking or querying for any entity inside of this class that contains a email equal to the email that we're passing in. Okay, and then we call the get method. So this will essentially return a instance if it finds some. If it doesn't find an instance, it will return a none. Okay, so now we need to return this. Okay, good. So let's say user is equal to cls.check if exists, and we pass in the email. So again, this will be none if we don't find any user, and this will be something, this will be a user entity if we find a user. Okay, so now we can go ahead and test it if we have found something. So if user, so if it's not none, we go ahead and do something. And if we don't find something, let's actually pass in the pass so that we're not getting the error. And if we don't find a user, let's simply return a dictionary, because we're going to be sending this dictionary back through the response to our clients. And let's say created is false. Let's say the title is going to be this email is already in use, and the message is going to be please log in if this is your email account. Okay, now we have to implement the case where the user actually does exist.